Funny, isn't it? The person you ignored is the one deciding your future now. How much can you tell about a person just by looking at them? That was the question Maya Bennett asked herself as she eased her aging navy blue Nissan Altima into the farthest corner of the dealership lot. It was just after 9 a.m., and the Florida heat was already thick in the air. She let the engine idle for a moment before shutting it off, taking a deep breath as she studied her reflection in the rearview mirror. A simple baseball cap covered her dark curls, and an oversized hoodie draped over her slender frame. No makeup, no jewelry. Nothing about her appearance hinted at the reality. She was the newly appointed regional director of Westwood Automotive Group. Today, she wasn't here for meetings, reports, or strategy sessions. Today, she was just another customer. The Westwood Prestige showroom in front of her gleamed under the morning light, with banners proudly declaring, "Spring Sales Event. Luxury within your reach." Maya adjusted her cap, grabbed a small notepad from the passenger seat, and stepped out into the heat. The moment she entered, a cool blast of air conditioning hit her, along with the soft hum of instrumental jazz playing through the ceiling speakers. At the front desk, a receptionist glanced up, barely acknowledging her, before returning to her phone. Maya waited. No greeting, no offer of assistance. That on the showroom floor, gleaming luxury vehicles sat under bright lights like museum pieces. BMWs, Audis, Jaguars. 3 salesmen stood by a desk, sipping coffee and laughing. She caught bits of their conversation, something about last night's game, a messy divorce, and a woman who had come in asking about the new Maserati Levant. Like she could afford it, one of them chuckled, making the others laugh. No one approached her. Maya wandered toward a sleek black Range Rover Velar, tracing her fingers along its freshly polished surface. She let a full minute pass. Still nothing. Finally, she turned and walked directly toward the group of salesmen. "Excuse me," she said with a small wave. "Could someone help me?" The tallest of the men, Jake Whitman, according to his name tag, turned, giving her a once-over. His gaze swept from her sneakers to her hoodie before he offered a tight-lipped smile. "Sure," he said, his voice smooth but distant. "What are you looking for today?" She hesitated, keeping her tone casual. "Something mid-sized. SUV, maybe. Comfortable, good mileage." He nodded slowly. "Might be best to start with the pre-owned lot," he said, dragging out the words like he was doing calculations in his head. "Get a feel for things first." Maya blinked. "I actually saw a few new models I liked out here," she said, gesturing behind her. Jake's smile sharpened. "Those can run pretty steep. Might be out of range, but we've got some solid certified pre-owned options. Dependable. Easy financing. Nothing too flashy." Maya's grip tightened around her notepad. "Fascinating. I'd still like to see the new ones," she said evenly. Jake let out a slow breath, clapping his hands together as if to wake himself up. "All right, well, before we do that, mind telling me your budget? That way, I can show you something that makes sense." Maya tilted her head. "Is that how you usually start with people?" He shrugged. "With folks who walking off the street? Yeah. I like to cut through the noise." Her eyes flicked to the luxury car key fob clipped to his belt, a small, silver Porsche emblem gleaming under the showroom lights. "Well," she said, still holding her notepad, "I'm still interested in this one." Jake stepped a little closer, lowering his voice. "Listen, I've been doing this a long time. I can tell when someone's just dreaming. Not saying you're not serious, but we've got some great pre-owned options that might be more your speed. You don't want to fall in love with something that'll break your heart or your bank." Maya felt something tighten in her stomach. Not anger, not even surprise, just confirmation. "You haven't asked me about my income," she said, voice calm. "Or my job, or what I've driven before." Jake smirked. "You're right, I haven't. But I've got instincts, you know? You came in dressed like someone trying to get her first car. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. Everyone's got to start somewhere." Maya's expression didn't change. Slowly, she flipped to a new page in her notepad and jotted something down. Jake frowned. "You taking notes on me?" She smiled faintly. "I like to remember who I talk to. Helps later." His laugh was shorter this time. Defensive. "Look, I'm just trying to help. If you want to waste time walking around, go for it. But when you're ready to talk real numbers, come find me." And with that, he turned his back and walked away. Maya stood there, surrounded by $1 million worth of polished metal and glass, and watched him go. The weight of it settled over her, not just the dismissal, but how comfortable he was with it. Like it was routine. Like it had happened 100 times before. The receptionist still hadn't looked up from her phone. Maya sat down on a leather bench near the vending machine, pulled out her phone, and started logging times, names, and faces. Because this wasn't just bad service. This was systemic. You can't be serious, Jake Harmon scoffed, his face turning red as he stared at Maya Caldwell. His usual smirk was gone, replaced with disbelief. Maya didn't flinch. I'm completely serious. Turn in your badge and leave the premises. A tense silence filled the showroom. No one dared to move. The air conditioning hummed softly in the background, the only sound in the room. Jake let out a sharp laugh, shaking his head. This is ridiculous. Over what? Because I suggested a used car. Maya's gaze didn't waver. Because you judged me before you even knew me. Because she looked around the room, letting her eyes land on each salesperson. All judge people before you know them. And it's hurting this dealership more than you realize. Jeremy Buttrell, the floor manager, cleared his throat, stepping forward cautiously. MMS Caldwell, he stammered. Firing someone on the spot might be a little extreme. Maybe we can talk about... No. Maya cut him off, her voice calm but firm. The problem here is that no one holds people accountable. You've let this culture fester, Jeremy. That ends today. Jake's jaw tightened, his pride barely letting him move. But the reality sank in. Maya wasn't bluffing. He yanked the badge from his belt and tossed it onto a nearby desk. Whatever, he muttered, turning toward the exit. As he walked out, he shot a glare at Mark Caldwell, the one salesperson who had actually treated Maya with respect. Mark kept his expression neutral, but could feel the weight of what had just happened. Maya turned back to the rest of the employees. For those of you still standing here, understand this. Change is coming. Kingsley Motors is about to operate differently. If you can't treat every customer with respect, you won't last here. A few of the salespeople exchanged nervous glances. One of the older men, Tom, a veteran at the dealership, raised a hand. Look, Ms. Caldwell, we don't mean any harm. It's just you get a sense for who's serious and who's not. We're trying to do our jobs. Maya folded her arms. That's the problem, Tom. You're assuming who's serious based on appearances. I walked in here today looking like an average woman off the street. I was ignored, disrespected, steered toward the cheapest options. Meanwhile, a man in gym shorts got treated like a VIP. She let that sit for a moment. That's not doing your job. That's discrimination. Silence. Jeremy exhaled. So what now? Maya took a step forward. Now we reset. There will be new training, new expectations, and a new culture. And if anyone here has a problem with that, she glanced toward the door, where Jake had just left. You know where the exit is. She scanned the room one last time, making sure they all understood. Meeting dismissed. One by one, the employees dispersed, murmuring amongst themselves. Some looked uneasy. Others, like Mark, seemed hopeful that as the floor cleared. Mark approached Maya cautiously. That was intense, he said with a small smile. Maya sighed, rubbing her temples. It had to be. Mark hesitated, then asked, What made you come down here yourself? Maya looked at him, her expression softening. Because I needed to see it with my own eyes. And I needed them to see me. Mark nodded, understanding. Well, I'm glad you did. Maya glanced around the now quiet showroom. So am I. You're firing me? Just like that. Maddox's face turned red with disbelief. Yes, Maya Caldwell replied firmly. You were warned twice before. This was your third strike. I'm not here to argue. You're done. Maddox let out a bitter laugh, looking around for support. But no one spoke up. He finally ripped off his badge, tossed it onto a desk, and stormed out, muttering under his breath. Maya let the silence settle before turning to Mark Caldwell. And Mark Caldwell, she said, her tone softening. You're being promoted to senior floor associate. Starting today, you'll be part of the leadership training program we're launching this summer. Mark's eyes went wide. Wait, what? You heard me. Maya smiled. You treated me like a human being. You didn't make assumptions. You asked questions, gave real answers, and stayed honest. That's the kind of person I want setting the tone here. Mark blinked a few times, still processing. Thank you. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything, she assured him. Just keep doing what you're already doing. And let this be a reminder, how you treat people always matters. She turned back to the rest of the team. Let this moment be a reset, a wake-up call. We're rewriting the way things are done here. Because if one more person walks into this dealership and gets treated the way I did today, there won't be next time. Not for this store. But even with these changes in motion, Maya knew her work wasn't done. Not yet by the time she finished speaking. No one could meet her eyes, except Mark. The others quietly returned to their desks, pretending to check emails or shuffle papers. But the weight of her words still hung in the air. Jeremy, the manager, approached her near his office, his voice low. I didn't know it was that bad. Maya shook her head. You did know. You just didn't want to deal with it. And that makes you part of the problem. Jeremy exhaled sharply, shoulders sinking. I'm giving you two options, she continued. 1. You step down and transfer to a different location, somewhere with less responsibility where you can rebuild some trust. 2. I replace you entirely. Jeremy swallowed hard. I'll take the transfer. Good call. She handed him a card. HR will follow up. You have 2 weeks to wrap up. Then, she walked straight over to Mark. You've got leadership potential, she told him. But I'm not just throwing you into the deep end. You'll be paired with a mentor, and I'll be checking in personally. Mark nodded slowly. I won't let you down. I know. He hesitated for a moment before asking, why'd you really come today? I mean, you could have sent someone. Maya smiled. Because I needed to feel it for myself. Paper doesn't show attitude. Emails don't capture silence. You only understand how people are treated when you walk through the door as a nobody. Mark thought about that, then said something that surprised her. Maybe being a nobody is how people show their true selves. Maya looked at him, impressed. Exactly. Outside, the sun had climbed higher in the sky. Maya stepped out of Kingsley Motors through the same glass doors she had entered earlier. But everything felt different now. She walked back to her old Honda, the same car Maddox had judged her for, and sat behind the wheel. She didn't start the engine right away. Instead, she let the moment sink in. Not because she was tired, but because she knew what she had done today mattered. One dealership down. Dozens more to go. But this one? It wouldn't go back to what it was. Not under her watch. Respect is not a favor. It's not earned through clothes, titles, or the kind of car someone drives. It's the bare minimum we owe each other. Too many people make snap judgments, writing others off in seconds based on things that mean nothing. But sometimes, the person you ignore is the one signing your paycheck. Sometimes, the one you overlook is exactly the one you need to treat everyone with the same care and attention you'd want for yourself, or for someone you love. Because you never know who's watching. And if you're someone like Maya, someone trying to lead with integrity, don't be afraid to shake the table. People may not thank you for it at first, but they'll remember it.